Hello, everybody, this is Purge, bringing you guys first-person replay commentary of Medusa. No stream game to go with this one, but this is a game where I ran into Medusa, and I was already against an Invoker and a PL, which isn't a very good matchup for Medusa, because she relies on her mana pool and her intelligence to make her tankier. So anybody that can drain mana is doing extra damage to her. So what we're going to do is go for, what I did is I went for a bit of a different item build, something that isn't as viable. And normally, at least, it's not an item build that you normally go for when you're against other heroes. But I kind of copied what I saw TC do once in a pro game. I believe he played Medusa against a couple of mana drainers, and he built a little differently than is conventionally the best way. So we'll take a look at that and the viability. So first things first, I can hop over to the Dota buff section. First of all, Medusa as a hero is decently slow, 290. Her agility gain is good, her int gain is kind of weak, and her strength gain is kind of weak. Her base armor is pretty weak, her base damage is pretty weak, and yeah, so she's not on the paper very amazing in terms of her hero. 55th popularity, pretty darn high win rate across, but the thing is that her mana shield is just very, very good for keeping you survivable. So every time you take a point of damage, it actually removes some mana. So every point of mana that you have gives you 2.5 HP. So mana is extremely valuable. Any item that you buy in Medusa that gives you all stats are generally very good. Like I have Skadi gives you a ridiculous amount of survivability. In fact, we can do the math on that really quick. You just pull the calculator up, and I wonder if I can add this as a... Okay, here's my calculator. Okay, so you get 25 int, so we'll multiply that by 13 because you get 13 mana per int. So that gives you 325, plus it gives you, I believe, another 250 mana. Okay. Plus 250 equals this, so it gives you 575 mana, and if we multiply that by 2.5, that's how much HP you get from Skadi from the mana pool alone. You get 1400 HP, assuming no mana drain, and then you get an extra 250 health and an extra 25 strength. So we'll say plus 250 equals this, and then the last one's 25 times 19, which is really like... that's hard. I don't know if I can do that. It's a lot of HP though, right? Like Skadi normally gives you only about 780 HP, not including the armor it gives you, but on Medusa, the amount of survivability you get from Skadi is ridiculous. It's very, very high. So buying Skadi on her is great, and other agility items, which is why a lot of these things are down here. But the problem is that when you're against mana drainers, then it just makes it a little bit worse. Or at least they have a solution to that. They drain your mana, and that limits your survivability. If you take a 400 damage EMP, that's doing like basically 1000 damage to you in terms of the mana drain to damage ratio. So getting your mana drained is really bad for Medusa, and that's what you have to play against. That's kind of what I played against this game. Okay, so other skills. Split shot lets you attack up to 5 targets. The outgoing damage is 80%, so when this is on, you do less damage to your individual target. Keep in mind that when split shot works, you don't... If I have a Monkey King bar, for example, and I use split shot, I don't Monkey King bar proc on every person I split shot. The only way that it goes on is the person that you're right-clicking actively. Same thing for Maelstrom, same thing for Daedalus crits. You only do this special effect on the main target. It's not like Flat Cannon. I guess Flat Cannon's the same for Gyro, but it's basically a similar thing. Mystic Snake has been buffed recently. It's a bouncing snake, and what it does is as it bounces, the damage increases by 35% each time. So when it hits your final target, it'll do more damage. It also does a mana steal of a percentage-based mana instead of before where it's a static number. So it means that Mystic Snake will give Medusa more mana in the late game, and there's also better ways you can actually get mana decently in the jungle, like Satyr camps. You can mana steal on 3 creeps, which end up giving you more mana overall than it costs to cast. So Mystic Snake is actually a pretty good ability now, I would say. It's a lot better to cast in the late game for sure. We already talked about Spell Shield or Mana Shield a little bit. Again, you just turn it on. It absorbs 60% of the incoming damage, so you lose mana before you die. In the past, it used to do 50%, so you would die about the same time that your mana ran out. But Mana Shield is a very, very good skill. It can turn any hero into a tank. And then the way your ultimate works is you cast this, and it puts you in this, how would I describe it? Basically, Medusa gets really mad and she starts screaming, right? And during that 6 seconds, if people spend 2 seconds of total time looking at you, aka having their hero pointed towards your hero, then they get stunned for 3 seconds, and while they're stunned and in stun duration, they take 0 magic damage, but they take bonus physical damage. So Stone Gaze is basically a teamfight ability. You use it when your opponents are running at you, or use it to cover your allies. Keep in mind where they're facing so you know when to use it, but it's a very, very good ability for teamfighting. It does cost 200 mana though, so the scary part is that if your opponents initiate on you and they do enough damage in the start of the fight that they drain your mana entirely, then you won't get your ultimate off. So you have to be very aware of that. And you have to be ready to cast this when you fear you're getting ganked, because it's almost impossible to gank a Medusa who uses Stone Gaze in almost all cases. So that's the basic skills. Common items. Phase Boots are pretty good on her because it helps you move. And again, when you activate Stone Gaze, most people turn around and try to run away. And it's better to be able to run through them if possible with Phase than it is for you to walk around them. I had a game this game where I got blocked. Lincoln Sphere is very common. Generic stats gives her a spell block. Skadi is very good. Generic stats. Manta Style is very good because if you have Split Shot active and then you use Manta Style, your illusions also get Split Shot. So you're actually massively increasing your AoE damage from your Manta Style if you use Split Shot. Now your illusions do die pretty rapidly, but if they don't die and you need to do damage in an AoE, you can actually deal a lot of damage using Manta Style. The illusions do, what, 28% ranged, and then I don't know if they take 80% or 100%, do 80% or 100% damage from Split Shot, but they will do a smaller component of that 28 obviously, but because it hits 5 targets, you're actually adding up damage a lot. It's like multiplicative damage, basically. So that's really good. Ring of Aqua is a very good early game item as well. Generic stats, lots of int, gives you armor, gives you mana regen. Mjollner's an occasional item. I actually did build it this game because there's a lot of AoE that I needed to deal with, and I thought that was a pretty good item. Butterfly sometimes for evasion and agility. Daedalus can be useful some games, but isn't always the right pickup. And then heroes that you're good against. Anything that's a bit weak to AoE. Chaos Knight, you can kill his illusions very easily. Undying, you can kill zombies with a simple attack with Split Shot. Sven, I'm a little surprised about. It's probably because you can just ulti and Sven can't attack anymore, and then you can do physical damage to him. Also, Sven is more of a cleave hero. He does a lot of single target damage as well, but if you get something like a Skadi, you can easily beat a Sven because you can kite him. So any melee carries you're decent against in a lot of cases. Necrophos, probably because he can't ever get you below the halfway mark, and even if he does, his ulti's still not going to kill you necessarily because of your mana shield. Some of these other heroes are both basically just because they get wrecked by the stun. Visage is weak because you can kill his bats, things like that. Heroes you're bad against are basically heroes that can push very rapidly. Anti-Mage is good against you because every time he attacks you, he drains your mana, which does a massive amount of damage. Keeper of the Light, same thing, drains mana. Ricky drains mana with Silence and Backstab. Invoker drains mana. Io, not quite sure about that one. Probably just supercharges the carry to kill you, basically, and you can't really stop the carry. And you can't kill the Nyx or the Io. Nyx is good against you because of mana drain, and Alchemist can just do a lot of right-click physical damage, so those all make pretty good sense. Now, if we look at matchups, I wanted to look at some of the other things because I thought the matchups that Medusa is bad against, these are all pretty high percentages compared to most heroes that we look at. So I thought I wanted to look to see just how badly it goes. So this is all the hero matchups. So you basically have pretty good matchups. I think anything over 2% is pretty good. Anything below 2% is pretty small, I would say. So 2%, there's not that many things that she's really good against, but if you look at things that she's bad against, there's a good double digit more. Broodmother, Mana Drain, Mana Drain, Mana Drain, Mana Drain, Mana Drain, and then there's a couple of ranged heroes. So I would say Deuce is a little bit worse than average against a lot of things. She's kind of an average carry in some ways is how I would describe her. She doesn't have a ton of counters, but there are some counters. And if we look at the meta trends, aka her win rates at all MMRs, she wins a lot at lower MMRs, but as you get higher, her win rate's actually a little bit lower at the highest MMR. Probably because she's pretty straightforward to gank. Good players will have a better estimation of how killable she is, and they'll usually pick smart heroes like mana drainers and things like that, and deal damage that way. I've played 25 Medusa games, and I have a 64% win rate. And I haven't played that many. In fact, I haven't played that many recently. 5 days ago, 2 months ago, 7 months ago, and then... Oh, I remember this game. This is the one where my internet died. I was like, an abandon? I almost never abandon. But my internet died this game, unfortunately. That was really unfortunate. But yeah, lots of Lincoln Spheres. First Medusa game I played in Dota 2 was in 2013. These are good items. I like these. So yeah. Alright, let's hop into the game. So I altered my skill build just a little bit this game, or my item build. because of the fact that I had a challenge for getting a Midas at 10 minutes, so I was like, hell yeah, let's get a Midas. This isn't greedy at all. It's greedy. It's definitely very greedy, but you can get away with it sometimes. Now, another thing that I thought was really interesting was I actually laned. I didn't want to lane in the off lane this game. That's right, we already had a carry, I believe, and then I randomed Medusa, so it was kind of like I was being forced in the mid lane. But mid Medusa actually isn't terrible. I did random, by the way, so I got a little bit of extra items here than I should have. Also, the crystal made it pass me sentries, which was really nice because I need these to help deal with the bounty hunter. But in the mid lane, I basically just opted to get a Ring of Basilius because I'm planning to... like, more armor is going to make my mana pool go a lot farther, basically, if I'm using Mana Shield, so that survivability is really good. It also gives you 6 damage, which is actually not bad to have in the early laning stage. 3 bonus armor and the mana regen, so that means that I'm more likely to be able to spam Snake out. It also meant that I didn't have to buy something like a bottle. I think a bottle on Medusa is... It gives you tons of survivability, because anything that regens your mana and your health is really good. But I would prefer a Basilius for last hitting, rather than a fast bottle in this game, because I do have to last hit versus an Invoker. Also, if he does end up mana draining me, having a Basilius gives me a lot of mana. Like, if I only have 19 int here, a Basilius gives me tons and tons of mana regen, compared to what something like a Sage's Mask would do. So I felt pretty comfortable getting this. It covers my mana portion. I don't necessarily have to get a bottle, and it also covers the aspect that I want armor and mana over time and damage. Just covers everything I need. Also got a Fairy Fire and a stack of Tangos. Now, you could, in a lot of cases, you can really justify getting a Mango. Mango is really good on Medusa for the fact that, again, any mana that you give yourself is going to give you a lot of survivability. So sometimes a Mango is kind of a nice starting item. If I'm in the safe lane, I would probably Mango. Try to hope they group up a little bit so I can get a snake on them. I do get a snake out of them. Shane kind of thrown his life away here a little bit.
First blood, as indeed I am first in everything.
Game is looking a little blocky here. Not quite sure why. Usually my FPS is a bit higher than this. But I'm basically laning versus a Invoker in the mid lane. If you want to look at his items. Pretty standard stuff. So last hitting against this guy is it's a little tough. He is Quas though, so because he's going Quas Flex, his damage isn't quite as high as I would normally expect it to be. Little snakes like that are really easy to do. If there's you have to look at the amount of bounces that your snake does, because in a lot of cases people will stand there and last hit. So level 1 Mystic Snake, it only bounces 3 times. Level 2 Mystic Snake, 4, 5, and then 6 finally. So you have to count how many creeps there are before you go for a snake, because you want the 3rd bounce to land on the Invoker. Put the sentry down now because I'm really fearing the bounty gank. Bounty ended up never actually coming mid, but he really should have in my opinion. I was a little surprised that he didn't. I got another bounce here on the Invoker, and it's important to see how much mana he's losing. He's actually used 1 Cold Snap so far, and he's only got 170 mana right now. Because every time I hit him with the snake, he's losing 11% of his total mana pool. So if we look at his total, he's got 500 mana. He's losing about 70 mana every time that hits him. That's basically 1 less Cold Snap. And I didn't think about it that much in terms of the laning stage, but it works really good against him actually. Him not having mana hurts him heavily. I actually did a pretty good job last inning, but I'm actually in the lead here. I was actually kind of surprised because I thought he was going to be a much better player than me. He is a better player than me. This guy's party MMR was like 5,700 or something like that. So I kind of felt like I was going to get wrecked mid a little bit, considering the weird picks that were in here. I should have snaked that because I had a level 2 snake. It would have bounced.
Just try and find me. Death and gold are linked.
Gonna gotta have 1 creep die before I can snake this. Luckily he misclicked here, so I get both. He kept letting the snake bounce to him too, which is a pretty big mistake. I basically get all my mana back from that snake bounce. He's got about 260. He can go for an EMP, but it's a 3-second charge time. It's very unlikely that he's going to be able to land that against me. So we've basically been in a 1v1. I think this is a pretty safe skill build if you're going in the mid lane. 2 split shot targets is not amazing by all means. but it's an option. Just because it could help you jungle a little bit faster if you do need to go back into the jungle. Got 144 mana out of that. Basically, I got all my mana back and I drained his. So I got a lot out of that. And just free right clicks on my opponent. And I'll hit him with another snake here. Doesn't bounce this time, but considering I got full mana from the last one, it's not bad. And I got half of my mana back. So I'm still draining his mana here. Just by doing just an average snake. So it's kind of fun pressuring Invoker. In some ways, Medusa is decent against Invoker in the mid lane. If I do get ganked and he's able to guarantee an EMP, my hero's a lot worse, by all means. But in a straight 1v1, it actually felt okay to be against an Invoker. I also have the benefit of having a Crystal Maiden Aura, so that makes things a little bit one-sided too, because I'm going to be getting more mana overall. But I'm pretty happy just to cast a snake on him like this. And I also got a little bit lucky in the bounce, so again, I get full mana out of that harass. I was hoping that would bounce, but it did not. The courier had been in use for like 2 minutes at this point, unfortunately. It took a really long time for me to get it.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Try to close some windows here. Get my FPS up a bit.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Make sure that when you do throw a snake though, you're not targeting the range creep first, because the range creep can get one shot.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Invoker ultimately ganking bottom after getting a ruin. And if nobody's here, it's really good to push the lane in the mid lane.
My target. My magics.
Nice, he actually got the Invoker. It's a really big kill. I'm sure the Invoker feels a little pressured in the mid lane if you can't farm very reliably. Still don't have boots here, unfortunately. I finally have my items coming to me.
Methinks you wanted that.
So I made a bit of a mistake here. I didn't transfer all of my items. I thought they did, but I actually didn't get my boots of speed here. Okay, they're there. I'm even thinking about a different game. I'm a little scared about getting ganked because I don't really know where the bounty is, and he was recently here. So I move over to stack the ancients, or stack the camp. No, actually, I'm just not going to make it in time. If I would have gotten there like a second earlier, I could have stacked that. That would have been really good. I think Shane was looking for bounty. You can definitely snake this wave. It gives you as much mana as you get back for sure. So if I'm scared, I can always go to the jungle. Split shot's decent for farming neutrals. It's not amazing, but it works. Seam was a little bit late to go in there, unfortunately. If you are getting mana drained, it's better to turn off your mana shield before it hits you, because the damage that you take from mana drain therefore won't drain your mana. It'll just do the actual mana drain. So it still hurts pretty bad, but luckily I'm able to stay alive. The mid lane was actually quite boring, with the exception of the snake stuff.
Tis non-cupatory.
So if you think about it, if I'm hitting 2 targets and I'm doing 80% damage, in reality I'm doing 160% total increase. So if I'm hitting multiple units, it's actually very beneficial for me to use split shot. Especially when you go up to 5, then you're multiplying 5 times 80, which is really like 320, 400%. So you're basically doing 4 times the overall damage in a team fight. So split shot's actually very good as an ability. This bounty's following me around, man. I missed like every last hit there. A lot of them were uphill misses though. I also maxed out split shot after mana shield. I don't necessarily think that this is the best thing to do, but I think if you're against a mana drainer like I was, then it might be worth it just to go for max split shot first, because it obviously helps me jungle much faster if I'm using split shot on neutral creeps. Alright, and there's my Midas completion. I had to get it before 10 minutes for the challenge to count, so I TP'd back to base here to heal. Now normally Midas isn't really that worth it on Medusa, but I think if I'm in a lane like this and I beat my Invoker in CS, and I am playing against an Invoker, then I can kind of get away with having this. Very clear they had vision over here, so I ultied. Magic Wand's an absolute must on Medusa, just because the heal you get from it not only increases your HP but your mana.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
And it felt like they had an observer ward. I'm just gonna check to see if that was actually here. No, they didn't. They just must have had vision on me from the bounty. Saw bounty coming for me. Could probably just go heal. Just to play it safe. You know, I should probably slow down a little bit, huh? Sorry about that.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Snake on multiple neutral creeps is just really nice. So basically playing Medusa is very much a farming game. Like, just trying to do as much damage as I can to the bounty here. You know, if he's dead like that, or if he's really low on HP, then I don't have to worry about him harassing me as much. So if you're playing a hard carry like Medusa and you want to farm safely, the best way to do it is to pop in and out of jungle and lanes. So go to a lane briefly. Really wanted to kill this Invoker.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Hopefully he does die. Snake actually worked out. I felt good about fighting in these early fights though. Felt really solid. In a lot of cases Medusa isn't that great in early fights, but just with 4 levels of Snake and some basic items, I'm difficult to go on, but I also have pose a really good threat in terms of damage. I'll get full mana from this one. Drain like, hate like 3 heroes with that Snake.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Looks like the Urn got the Nyx. So through all this, I've farmed quite a bit, but I've also participated in fights. It's usually pretty important to do that as a carry, just because it means that your team overall is going to get more value. So it's a really weird poison touch.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's structures are fortified.
Downtime, go farm in safe places. Still kind of worried about a dive. I think I was trying to figure out what items I wanted to buy first here. I feel like I ultimately did go for power treads, but I probably should have bought them earlier. I'm looking for a fight here since I do have my ultimate ready.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
I luckily got the stun off on the bounty there. That worked out really nice.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen. Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
Now I'm kind of at a point where I'm like incredibly wealthy, more than I probably should be, and I opted to buy a really fast Maelstrom. Again, I do have to deal with PL, and I also kind of want to be able to do more single target damage, because normally the nice thing about the agility stack build aka the if you buy things like Skadi, Lincoln's, Manta style, what they allow you to do is they make your illusions really strong, and then the illusions get a lot of damage due to split shot being strong. But in a game like this where you're dealing with mana drain, those builds don't work as well because they do give you a large component of this at you being really hard to kill. If they have mana drain, they kind of counter that. So instead you have to turn yourself into a hero that has a damage item, and then you have to get a BKB at some stage. And the BKB is obviously to stop mana drain, and the mana drain from PL.
Radiant's top tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Definitely not the target there for the SB. They kind of had some weak ganks as well, and Shane just did a really good job setting things like that up. But at this stage, it's almost impossible for me to get killed. Like, I've got almost all points in my mana shield. Obviously, my int is not very high, but my ability to farm now is really incredibly high. Split shot plus the Maelstrom alone are going to do a lot. So again, jungle camps, move back to lane and push is pretty much the strat. Two range creeps there gave me 200 mana, so keep that in mind. If you ever miss a snake and you're going to hit 2 range creeps, it's always worth it to snake. So you will get the mana back. Unfortunately, I didn't have a TP here to go cover him. And found this ancient stack. I started doing this, I probably should have waited the 8 seconds or so to stack it again, because I could have gotten like a 5 stack out of it instead. Also, I'm not that fast at farming this because Maelstrom doesn't actually give you damage to ancients. Tried to do the pull here, but I'm sure it's not going to work.
Regeneration.
I also maybe should have left it up for the PA because PA was also going Battle Fury, I believe, and almost had it. So I kind of robbed his accelerant tool. I'm looking at that fight. I probably should have just showed up. Shown up. Probably should have shown up.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Kind of just winning every fight here. Should definitely push mid though. Okay.
Dire's
Good.
middle tower is under attack.
Every time you take a teamfight win, you should be going for a push afterwards.
Dire's structures are fortified. Dire's middle tower has fallen.
I'm betwixt myself.
I just saw Bounty behind mid, I think.
New treasures. Dominating.
Really worried about getting charged or something at this point. It's kind of scary to do this, but worked out in the end. So I'm quite farmed. I'm sure my GPM, my net worth is really high. Yeah, doing ancients, been in a lot of kills as well, and I have Midas, of course.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Not so fast. Dominating. Double kill.
My team did a great job creating space in the mid game. I feel like I participated enough in the early game to justify my AFK farm, but at this stage my team was doing a lot more than I was. Maelstrom really does increase your farm levels by a lot though. I don't really like the Maelstrom Mjollner build that much because it just doesn't synergize very well with Medusa's skills. It also doesn't synergize with her ulti on Stone Gaze. If Stone Gaze does lock somebody down, the bonus damage, you're only profiting from your right click. The actual Mjollner or the Maelstrom proc, that stuff actually does no damage when people get hit by stone form. So it's one of the reasons I don't really like the build very much. It does increase your farming speed by a lot for a mere 2,700 gold. So that part's kind of cool, but I think against really good players, in a lot of cases, Medusa has to go for the fast Skadi build, just because the survivability it gives you is pretty incredible. Almost got the Mjollner finished. It's really nice to get a really fast Mjollner. The reason because the active buff, that it gives you, it can be diffusal bladed off. So if there's a diffusal blade on Phantom Lancer, it can be very solid to have. So I knew that the Invoker was here due to the debuff.
Radiant structures are fortified.
Trying to stun him up here, keep the CM alive, but unfortunately didn't quite work out.
Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
Oh, maybe Mjollner now though.
Radiant's top tower has fallen.
So slow.
Unstoppable.
Build's working out pretty good though. My damage overall is very, very strong right now. My total survivability is not amazing. If they just focused me and mana drained me, I would actually get kind of wrecked, I think, by the Invoker. But luckily my damage is good no matter what. Like, Medusa's problem in most cases that her single target damage is just not high enough. Because you have to go for a lot of, like, generic stat items. But when you buy a damage item like this, your opponents actually have to be a little scared of you. It's like a different Medusa playstyle. Otherwise, Medusa basically just has to either kill everybody first before she dies, but in most cases you just can't afford to do that. You just don't have the damage items. So in some ways this build is just so much better than the other ones I've gone in the past, like Lincoln's or Skadi first or something like that. I should have played around the PA.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Unfortunately, I didn't get my ultimate off there. Would have been nice to stun them along with the Phoenix Egg, but it's a really good way to protect the egg actually. If the egg goes off, they usually will run towards it to kill it, and then I can stone gaze and stand on top of it, and then they won't be able to focus the egg because they'll get them stunned. It does counteract Phoenix's magic damage though, again, if they get egg or if they get stone form, so it's kind of bad in a way. Medusa just wasn't the most synergistic pick here, but it honestly felt quite good against the Invoker. I didn't feel bad at all about laning against him. It felt pretty solid. Just the constant mana drain and stuff like that. Invoker just had a really rough game here. He's only got Orchid, he's working on Ags or something. But the guy was a much higher rated player than me, and I felt like the laning went quite good. I mean, I'm sure if he did it again, he wouldn't have gotten snaked as much. No, Bert. Again, the slow Medusa thing becomes a problem. It's a little scary here. It's actually kind of dangerous for me to still farm here. It's probably not worth it. But I kind of did want to fight. Oh, I barely had enough mana for that, actually. I tried to run in front of him for the stun. Unfortunately, I didn't get there in time. I felt like the CM would be with me there. I'm kind of surprised she ran away. She ended up dying on the retreat, but yeah, I kind of felt ditched. I felt like I could have won that fight. I had really good damage, right? I got my stone gaze off. They all ran away, but I probably should have ran after the stone gaze when everybody was kind of low, rather than greed it out and try to get kills. I should have just probably dipped. So either way, my farm is still really high. My net worth is really high. How is the Spear Breaker so farmed? What the heck? He's got a Silver Edge and a Midas, that's crazy. TP for the Midas. I'm gonna work on a Skadi now, just because the overall survivability I'll get is way higher. Even though they do have mana drain, it's still worth it to get it. Like, you saw the math. I'm getting like 2,000 HP basically from having a Skadi. It's completely worth it. It's a really nice kill. Vice chain. Farm when you can.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Trophy kill.
I don't know if that bounced. I think it did.
Dire's
Sold Basilius to
top
get a
tower
ultimate
has
orb. That's absolutely worth it. You get like an armor and a half about. Increase your damage by 10. Increase your HP by probably, I don't know, man. Every time you get an ultimate orb, it's probably so much. 10 times, oops. 10 times 130. Oops. Well, the answer is 130. It's 130 plus 190. Actually, that's not right. It's 130 times 2.5 plus 190. Ultimate orb gives me 500 HP if I don't get mana drained. Don't think I want to take this fight.
Well-gotten gains.
Probably should have just used my Midas on the smaller creep, just to get it off cooldown. Walk from camp to camp farming. Nothing new here. Could have done that a little safer, probably. If you do grab illusions, again, make sure they use split shot first. They actually do pretty bad damage here, since almost all my gold is into an item that does nothing for my illusions. I don't get the attack speed from the Mjollner, I don't get the damage, and I don't get the proc. This item actually does nothing for my illusions, so my illusions are actually quite weak. If I had agility items, they would hit a lot harder. Probably should have snaked that creep wave just to get my mana pool up a little bit. It's a little bit of a mistake there. Then it seemed pretty clear that that was coming. I was getting ganked, so TB back home. All right, and back out to farm. Should have brought a TP though. So now I have 1400 mana, I have 1900 HP, I also have a slow on the target. The Skadi slow doesn't work if I get a Mjollner proc, so the items still stack pretty nicely. So my next goal is basically to tank damage. There's a bounty hunter on top of me. Next focus is to tank damage, and
Haste.
do you have an ulti off here? The amount of damage that I tanked there was just so much.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
So we kind of super won that fight. They basically used all of their abilities just to initiate on me, and I tanked all the damage up. Even with the EMP, I was still very survivable. Also got a 17 charge wand off, which is another like probably 600 HP that I got out of it. You like have to get Skadi, man. It is like the Medusa item. It's a lot better than Lincoln's in a lot of cases. It gives you 25 will stats instead of 15. It also gives you 250 of health and mana, which is such a good item for her. Makes your damage a bit weak, but that's not necessarily what the hero's about, right? Like, that fight, we won it, not because I did damage, but because they used all of their abilities on me, and I stunned them for 3 seconds, and I still did some decent damage in return. Like, if we go back, let's go back to the fight recap, and we can see exactly what I did in terms of numbers. Okay. So, the damage I did, almost non-existent. I feel like that's wrong. Is that really true? But the amount of damage that I took was... Did I just not attack the whole time? Okay, I definitely did damage, right? Okay, I'm attacking. Alright, there's damage being dealt with split shot, okay. Just towards the end here, it looked like I did no damage, because I basically just hit illusions.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Alright, I don't think I hit that guy. That did nothing. Killed these creep waves. I 8 damage. Alright, here comes the fight recap. It's gonna say 0 again probably, but okay, I don't know why it shows me doing actually no damage. The same is true for these two guys. Those guys did damage as well. I got dag on it, I don't know. Bug. Speed things up, I guess. Healing, blah blah blah. You saw this part coming mid. Okay. But the amount of damage I tanked was ridiculous, for sure.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
Oh, he died to the meatball. My ulti was a little worthless there. The slows. I felt so useless in that fight. Just stood around forever trying to get something done. Nothing happened.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Having mana regen at this stage is pretty nice as well, though. You might criticize me for that if I'm missing 600 mana. You can justify that as me missing HP. But having the max HP is usually just a little bit better. And if you look at that, I just did a triple snake there and I got 340 mana back. You actually have pretty good ways to collect mana on this hero now. HP regen, maybe that's a different problem, but... BKB definitely the next item. You can maybe justify that I got a little late, but considering how the fights were going and that my damage is pretty high, I think just getting the Skadi was pretty justifiable. God, I hate playing slow heroes though. It's so frustrating. You're like trying to get from each fight to fight. Push lanes. Farm jungle games.
Invisibility.
There's a fight going on top. The fight was not very good. Shane tried to save him. It's funny I said shave. Shane tried to save him and died for it. I should really start running places as soon as the fight starts rather than... Oh, I did it that time actually. Normally I'm like, I gotta finish this camp before I move. Really important for my farm. Okay, so this is bad. Basically everybody on our team was dead without buyback. times like these, the best thing to do is farm or split push.
Dire's bottom
One of them did
tower
have to
is
TP
under
bottom
attack.
because we pushed that wave out earlier, which is kind of nice for us. But I definitely am not qualified to fight like 5 years. There's no way I would win that fight. So I have to just go sit in my base, kind
Radiant's
of.
top tower is under attack.
Got BKB now though. My armor overall is a little bit low. Normally my armor's a lot higher, but it's because I buy multiple agility items. In this game I only got one. So maybe that's the solution to this build other than mana drain. It's just a lot of single target damage, but the PL is very behind. He just went Diffusal Blade. He got a Vlad's really early for some reason. It's not a good PL build. Invoker has Orchid, Ultimate Orb, and an Axe, so not very effective either. They just don't have very good solutions against my hero. Oh, I don't have my untap my split shot on. There we go. So let's look over that fight one more time because I went a little bit faster. I think I did get mana drain there. I kind of just focus fired the Spirit Breaker basically. And it's important to BKB when the PL finally goes onto you. That's why I got the BKB. Because if I don't do that, he's going to drain my mana really rapidly. So if I BKB, Diffusal Blade doesn't work anymore, and I can just stand there attacking, and I'm going to clear the illusions really rapidly. It also prevents him from using Diffusal Blade on me, so if I Mjollner myself and then BKB, then I also guarantee that buff. So every time I take damage, I get a chance to reveal the static charge, which does 200 magic damage. So that's really good as well. At this point, they basically can't fight into me, and I do decent enough damage, and I provide some slow and utility to my team. So even if I'm not doing massive amounts of damage, just putting the slow through can make a really big difference. This is also a bit of a story about space creation, because Shane did a great job space creating this game. If you look at the scoreboard, it's 18, 6, and 15, and that was on a support role. But the early fight participation that I did on Medusa is still really good. You can't always just play a carry and just go AFK farm. It's important that you don't do that. If there are fights that you can show up to and contribute without dying, then you should do that. Because basically, winning those early fights basically allowed the rest of my team to go do like 4-man fights all the time. I wanted to fight this, but I'm so low down. So much mana I get back from him. 150? Okay, I got my mana back.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Kinda just gave up of diving at this point. No, my damage is still really good even without the lightning blast there. Could still kill creeps very fast.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
So next item that'd be really good, I would say Rapier. It's about Rapier time. I think I could justify a Rapier here. So my damage is very good, my survivability is really high, my attack speed's really good due to the Mjollner and the Midas, so I would probably drop TP and get a Rapier. That would be most ideal. I could also buy... I don't want to buy Manta because I don't have very many agility items. I actually don't remember what I purchased. Oh, I got Butterfly, that's right. Butterfly works really good also. It's a safer bet just because them hitting me is entirely reliant on them having MKB. They do have a Silver Edge, so they can apply Break to reduce my evasion for a couple seconds, but if PL's trying to hit me and his illusions are missing 35% of the time, that's giving me a lot of mana basically every time. So I opted for Butterfly instead. I think it's definitely the safe play. when we're this far ahead, if you're way ahead of the enemy carry, getting an evasion kind of seals the deal. It makes it so that he can't even get close to fighting against you. And just the overall attack speed that it gives me is not bad either, because if I attack faster, I will shoot more Mjollner procs. So that part's pretty cool. Bunny's following me, no big deal. Felt like I was getting ganked. So I brought a butterfly. Now I'm happy to fight. It's my flutter to run away there. So much needed movement speed. It actually makes you so fast. 35 bonus movement speed, that's incredible. It's actually a really nice solution to EMP. I don't really need the Aegis, so I'm not going to die anyway, so... Did get my mana drain there, unfortunately. Oh, guy got messed up. Don't know if I needed a BKB there. I don't think that was very good on me. Flutter.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
The old slow. I was actually really impressed with this build. It works quite good. On paper, it doesn't synergize at all, and that's what makes me uncomfortable about it, but it's quite solid.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen. Dire's top tower
My
is under
GPM was
attack.
really high this game.
Dire's top tower has fallen.
KDA was quite good too.
Dire's top barracks are under attack.
There we go. Had almost 700 GPM.
Dire's top barracks has fallen. Dire's top barracks has fallen. The Radiant now have Dire's middle tower has fallen. Radiant's top tower is under attack. Dire's ancient is under attack.
Remember what I meant to buy here.
Radiant victory.
Eh, doesn't matter. Game is one. Yeah, if you're dealing with mana drainers, you gotta go BKB, you gotta do a little bit of a different item build. I felt like Mjollner was a good way to do that. The build that I saw TC do was Daedalus and BKB, and it covered the same problem, or covered the same issues. You need to have as much damage as possible to single targets and AoE. Daedalus is a good way to do that. Getting a BKB afterwards is needed. You're going to be really weak on survivability after that stage, due to the fact that you spent it all on a Daedalus, which doesn't give you damage and survivability. But with your ultimate, the Daedalus should be enough to keep you alive and deal decent damage. Not keep you alive, obviously, but your ultimate should be enough to keep you alive, and the Daedalus should be enough damage for you to be able to turn around and kill your opponents. So, don't be afraid to change up your Medusa item builds. I am way too heavily on that same path. I always think about the trifecta of Medusa items of like Skadi, Bfly, Manta is like the holy grail and the only way to play it. But if you're against mana drainers, especially a hero like Nyx Assassin who gets more mana drain, depending on what your int is, then sometimes you just have to entirely skip all the int items and just grab maybe raw mana items instead. Something like that might be better. I'm not saying you should buy Bloodstone or anything like that, but maybe skip Skadi, or if you do get an int item, only get Lincoln Sphere, for example, is maybe one solution against a hero like Nyx. So that is Medusa. I hope you guys learned a bit and enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.